All right, guys, as we're joining on, as we're waiting for D to send me his mic, if you want to turn on your mic, I say mics as well. If you want to turn on your cameras, it'll be amazing to see how your week is going, how your journey is going so far. Definitely want to be able to talk to one of you guys. I think we're getting excited for the upcoming trips. It'll be good to see if any of you guys are going to be there as well.
Hey,
Hey,
Sajal.
Sejal, how's it going? How you doing? How's your week going?
Week's going good. How about everybody?
All good over
Couldn't be
here.
better.
Yeah,
How's
looking forward to seeing you guys in Florida.
I'm excited for it. I'm excited. I've heard big things from Sage.
Yeah, it's her neck of the woods, so it's gonna be good.
Although she does make me nervous when she chats about like alligators popping up in the garden and stuff like that.
Oh, you should talk to Max. I just sent him. We had a pretty big one. I was walking around the house because it's been cold outside, and I look out my window and I across the pond, and I'm like, that looks like a log, but I'm not sure. So I pulled up the camera, I zoomed in. It's a huge alligator sunning itself, and the ducks are around it and everything. And I'm like, okay, so I took a picture and sent it to Max. And he's been swimming every day looking at my dogs.
I'm gonna revise like Crocodile Dundee or something before I come out.
No, that sounds
Yeah.
so crazy to me that that's actually normal. Like there's an alligator in your garden.
Yeah, he pops up every now and then. You see his head up and goes back down. As long as we don't take the dogs
Really?
back there, we're good.
I
Wouldn't
mean,
even think about it. When I'm like back at my mum and dad's, the dogs need to go out. I'm like, yeah, go on.
it's like, oh,
No, we have to
What's
think
gonna
about it
happen? A
because it
pigeon
gets
might
even
catch them.
better. My husband used to go walking at night a lot, and I used to get so mad at him because we have a black bear and her cubs that come out ever so often, and they'll just walk the neighborhood at nighttime.
It's a different
wow.
Yeah,
world.
yeah, we live in a jungle.
It's actually a different world. Like you have cubs and bears. We're scared of
Yeah.
mouse and rats, I guess.
Legit, my neighbor's chihuahua is the most dangerous thing in the village.
The
That's
the funniest thing about Florida is we have iguanas, and when it gets pretty cold, they freeze and they fall out the trees.
I seen this. I seen that
Yeah.
on Instagram somewhere. That is
And
crazy.
they literally do. So I have two huge ones in the palm trees behind my house. So I was just waiting for them to fall, but I guess it didn't get cold enough.
And do they die or do they thaw out? And then
No, they're alive. It warms up, they thaw out, and they'll get up and walk away.
What?
a whole
It's the
different world.
funniest thing.
It's a whole
Oh,
different- But other than obviously catching the iguanas and dodging the bears, what's your goals been this week, or have you achieved any goals? I'd love to hear.
I've been really good on steps. I've probably banked 10,000 steps extra this week already.
Oh, nice.
So it's good when it's cold outside because I'm just walking around the house every time I'm on a call or anything. I'm just walking up and down the house, and it gets those steps in. So
Nice.
that's a good goal I've
I
achieved
was
this
gonna
week.
say, I hope that's been indoors, not running away from the different things outside.
We go walking every day. As long as the sun's up, we're good outside. So we actually, my entire community is 2 miles. And Rajesh and I will go walk it every morning and evening. And we get a lot of steps. That's how we get our steps in. And we just made it into a routine. First thing in the morning and the last thing we do after dinner.
Yeah.
Nice. It'd be great to hear because I'm sure obviously it's cold weather where a lot of people are, and a lot of people may say, you know what, they'll go to the gym and get it done, and obviously try and keep their motivation up to at least get it done. What's been motivating you to keep on getting your steps in, although it's been cold?
Photo shoot. I have photo shoot in 6 weeks. So I have to look my best. I mean, this is the one that's going to count. So that's a big motivation for me. But other than that, I mean, I'm the lowest weight I've been since I was 14 years old. So that's motivation for me to just keep it up.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So, and then even bigger question, I think this is the most important one. What's your go-to meal after the photo shoot?
I want In-N-Out burger because we'll be in Dallas and I'm getting an In-N-Out burger.
Oh, nice. Okay, I'll be
Yeah.
there. Perfect. We'll decide.
Let's go.
I've still never
I'll
tried it, you know.
I'll bring it to shoot. How about that?
I like the sound of that already.
David's
But,
there.
I'm
Oh
there.
yeah.
Sure. But no,
And
that's
hopefully
honestly
it doesn't make me sick. Because so far, every time I eat anything that's not on meal plan, I'm sick after. Stomach hurts like crazy.
It can take a little while to like, particularly
Yeah.
when you've been super restrictive, it can actually take a little
Yeah.
while to just reintroduce these things back in. You would
Yeah,
like,
it was crazy. We were in Miami on Sunday and took my daughter out to lunch. Well, actually, she took us out to lunch. And I really didn't have anything bad, but I had an empanada, which was fried and is full of cheese. And that made my stomach hurt so bad. And I was like, this is crazy. K-Mac literally broke me. Like, I can't go back to the fatty carby stuff.
you will be able to. It just actually just takes a little bit of time to reintroduce them back in. Because
Actually,
it's
I don't mind it. It's keeping the pounds off. I don't mind
fair,
it.
fair.
We'll just keep going. We'll eat it now and then as a cheat meal, but we're good to go.
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously having that time where you can say you've built so many healthy habits, you don't even want to think about the other habits, obviously, that you're now thrown away, right?
Yeah,
So
it's
getting
like
that big,
I know you guys are talking behavior change. It's like so crazy for me not to be eat. Like my mom had like some chocolates and stuff out. She had chocolate cake and it didn't even bother me. And that's crazy for me because I have the biggest sweet tooth. I have to have something sweet. So my sweet go-to now, it's like Quest protein cookies. That's like my dessert after dinner now.
How much weight have you lost in total?
65 pounds.
Amazing.
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah.
65 pounds down. And it's even the health benefits off the CPAP machine, off the cholesterol meds. It's just been a big, big health change.
Good for you. That's incredible.
Yeah,
Good.
Thank
Honestly,
you.
very, very incredible.
amazing.
Cool. Before we dive into today's topic,
Yep. I think
Sam, what are we chatting about today?
Yeah, I think Sergio actually gave us a nice segue there as well. Teed us up to go into it. So yeah, we're going to be talking behavior change, how kind of motivation ties in with that quite heavily as well. And I think the best place to actually start is by going through a bit of a kind of recap of what we discussed last week. So for anyone who wasn't there, goals essentially are a big, big part of our motivation, right? Because we have to be motivated towards actually changing our behaviors in pursuit of something specific. So first and foremost, we discussed kind of a goals hierarchy, right? This can be broken down into three things. You've got your kind of overriding goals, right? So these are called your subordinate goals. And essentially, this is an underpinning value, right? Of course, we have on our application form, everyone here will have filled it out when they got started, your why behind the journey, the why behind signing up, behind your goals. That's essentially what we're talking about here, right? So something along the lines of, I want to improve my health because health is important to me, right? Something along those lines. We then have underpinning that your intermediate goals, which are a little bit more specific. So let's say we want to improve our health. How are we going to go about doing that, right? I want to eat a healthy diet. I want to have a healthy sleep routine, things like that, right? A little bit more specific than the previous. And then from there, we have our goals that we actually interact with. So these are the things that we'll set for you as a coach on a week-to-week basis. These are the things that you'll say, okay, this week I want to go ahead and focus on this. So let's say, for example, we say one of our intermediate goals is I want to engage in a healthy sleep routine. Then we may break that down into, okay, I'm going to avoid screens before I go to bed. I'm going to have a consistent sleep time. I'm going to have a consistent wake time, right? Those are the goals that we actually go ahead and interact with. And we can make those a bit more specific by saying, okay, I'm going to go to bed at 10 p.m., wake up at 6 a.m. or something along those lines, right? So that's our goals hierarchy and kind of having a really strong goals hierarchy that really is underpinned by your values and things that are truly important to you is one of the big underpinnings for at overriding motivation, which is a big underpinning for one of the behavior change models that we're going to go ahead and discuss a little bit later as well.
I think, and then as we ran through there last week as well, there's kind of, when I'm doing goal setting with clients, there's kind of 4 things that I want to get really, really specific on. I want it to be a process goal over an outcome goal. So an outcome goal, generally speaking, we start with outcome goals. Like if we take Sagil, for example, photo shoot was one of them outcome goals, but a process oriented goal is like, there's no finishing to this stuff. I'm doing it for the sake of doing it because I like how I feel as I'm engaging in these things, whether it's doing steps or resistance training or eating more veg, whatever it is. We're just engaging in it for the sake of engaging in it because of how we feel and the day-to-day kind of positive emotions that we feel just from ticking the boxes of looking after our physical and mental health, essentially. So making sure that our goal is not solely focused on the outcome, like scale weight coming down or hitting a certain target. It's more so just in the process itself. And we place weight on the adherence to the process as opposed to this, I will have been successful with this once I achieve this. It's more so, no, I'm being successful with this as I show up every single day and engage in these behaviors. As you said, we need to be able to take the goal, break it down into just like bite-sized daily actions that we want to engage in on a regular basis. And that's how we become like process oriented with things. Then we want to have a degree of like specificity with flexibility. What I mean by that is essentially we want our goal to be able to be summarized very, very quickly. Like I want to get 3 resistance training sessions in this week. That is one of my goals. But we need to add in a degree of flexibility in there. We just need to expect imperfection. So if we expect imperfection, essentially what it looks like is, okay, I'm going to strive for 3 sessions. Maybe I'm going to get 2 sessions some weeks. So I have this window for success of like 2 sessions is good. 3 is really what I'm striving for. The best way to do this is actually with like your steps. So let's say goal is 10K on average, but if I hit my average towards 9K, cool. I have this window where I'm happy enough that I'm taking a step in the correct direction. And the next thing is you want to find a goal that has a balance of difficulty. If you pick too much of a challenging goal, you feel overwhelmed about it, and then like you just don't engage with it. If you pick something too easy, you don't take it seriously enough as well. Like there's a sweet spot when it comes to goal difficulty. Like you want something that gets a little bit of anxiety behind you. Of like, oh, I have to perform. I have to do these things to get myself ready for this. It's one of the reasons why, like photo shoot prep, for example, we see a lot of individuals being like, they adhere better because of the little bit of anxiety behind the fact that they have a photo shoot coming. Or if you book yourself a 10K race, you're like, I'm going to show up and train no matter what because I have to be ready for that 10K race. And if you can get a goal that gets a little bit of anxiety behind you, a little bit of excitement behind you, it will actually propel you forward. And essentially, the next thing is just making sure that your goals are centered around approach orientation as opposed to avoidance. So goals like removing unhealthy foods and things like that. That's not actually the best way of approaching things. The best way of approaching things is approach orientated. So you're like, okay, I'm going to add this to my life. So I'm going to add more fruit and veg. I'm going to add more protein. I'm going to add more steps, whatever that is. It's the addition, like goals that are additional. Adherence rates are better and enjoyment along the process is better as well.
Essentially something that you're going to do as opposed to something that you're not going to do. Right. Yeah. I think you touched on enjoyment along the process there, and I think that's essentially what all of this underpins with kind of the flexible restraint over rigidity, things like that, right? Makes the feeling of success more frequent. When we feel like we're succeeding, we feel better mentally, and therefore we have more consistent kind of motivation as well. And again, that's something that we'll touch on. I think the only other one is mastery versus performance.
Oh yeah, mastery versus trophy, yeah.
So essentially, looking at kind of learning new skills. So I want to be more effective within my strength training. I want to learn to track my calories more effectively, that kind of thing, in that sense, right? To move it on and actually start to discuss motivation a little bit. Did you want to touch on kind of what we discussed previously about how motivation is such an underpinning for behavior change?
Yeah. Okay. So We have a couple of models of motivation that are used in the research. The main one being self-determination theory. And that essentially posits that if we have a degree of competence, autonomy, and relatedness, that our motivation towards engaging in a behavior is in a good spot. So autonomy is essentially like making sure that you're in control of your own goals. So you're not, the goals aren't forced upon you by somebody else. So for example, like if you go for your doctor's visit and they tell you you need to lose weight, that's not necessarily helpful. It needs to be a decision that you've come to by yourself. So you have that degree of control on it. It comes back to like our readiness to change. So our readiness to change is essentially, it's a scale system that decides how likely we are, like how ready we are to actually engaging in a change process. And having a degree of autonomy that we get to make our own decisions in the process is really, really helpful. So like when we're coaching, we always want like your input for what do you think is going to work best for you? Like what's going to be the most realistic thing to give you that degree of autonomy, because it increases the likelihood of like adherence and motivation towards it being in a good spot. The next thing is relatedness. And that's, I suppose,
just to actually touch on the autonomy side of it as well, actually, because I think this is all of these things, and the degree to which we feel we need these things can change from when you kind of start a process kind of a year in and then following on. I think autonomy is one of the competences, is probably another good one to touch on that as well. But you may feel at the very beginning of a program, for example, you just want your coach to tell you what to do and you're happy to go ahead and do that. And then later on, it may be a case of, okay, you know what, I actually do want a little bit more input on kind of the muscle groups that I'm training, or which exercises that I'm training. So it's absolutely fine if kind of we ask and we say, okay, what do you actually want to do? And you go, I don't actually know, you tell me, right? But then later down the line, chances are that opinion will start to develop as you kind of gain more and more knowledge around things.
Yeah, it's this idea of like, aren't you supposed to tell me what to do? I love that.
Yeah.
You know your life far better than I ever am going to. So I want your input into how realistic this seems it's going to be, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah. And competence, like we enjoy doing things that we're good at. We just full stop enjoy doing things that we're good at. But in order to get competent at something, you have to be a beginner first. So you have to just be accepting of this period of time where I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm figuring it out as I go. And then all of a sudden you'll have competence for it. And then you'll actually like love your training. I'd love to see this in the chat, actually. Have people noticed that, like, let's say you were just brand new to resistance training as you joined KMAC, that for the first 4 months, you were like, I don't know if I love this. I like the results that I'm going to try and achieve. I like the idea of making progress. I know resistance training is important. And then maybe now you're like, you know what? I just like training. I just like taking that personal time. I like getting stronger. I like the accomplishment of hitting PBs. I'd be interested to know if people seen that shift.
That's something that I think is actually worth coming back to in a second. So actually go ahead, discuss the relatedness side of things, and then I'll come back to that after.
So the relatedness is all about you just not feeling like you're alone in this. So there's other individuals who are in the same boat, whether that's friends or family members. It is helpful when you have individuals beside you who understand and get it. And that's not going to be the case for everybody. But if you can try and create this kind of community, and that's essentially what we're trying to do as well, is create this community where you can feel like you're not alone in the struggles that you're going to face as you work towards your goals.
Definitely. I think what you're saying there as well, I think shows the importance of being transparent as well, right? Especially with your coach, knowing that, like I just said, they're not alone or you're not alone. So being able to at least be able to speak to your coach, speak to your friends, speak to your family around you, causes that sense of community, which is only going to help you to drive along your journey a lot more. That accountability, especially, I think a lot of people may not like to tell people about their journey until they've reached their transformation, not knowing it's actually helpful because it keeps that accountability there that you're going to keep going as well, if that makes sense.
It does. It puts a little bit of pressure on yourself if you tell people what you're doing.
Yeah,
because then you have to go and do it.
Public accountability.
Yeah, that's essentially it. Okay, yeah. I like this as like a general heuristic for how we get individuals to become the best versions of themselves, because essentially if we don't have like basic needs being met, so self-actualization is essentially like becoming the best version of yourself. But if we don't have all of these things first, it's next to impossible. So we could be trying to bang our heads against the wall, trying to do something up here, when in reality, we need something down here that needs to be fixed. And it doesn't matter how much you try working up here, if you don't address something a little bit more foundational, it's hard to work your way up the pyramid. So I think this is a nice little way of kind of looking at things. And a lot of times what we find is people come with an X problem, but the reality is that's just how like Y is manifesting essentially. So for example, I have an X problem, I have a body weight problem, but in reality, the problem is Y, which is stress. And it's the stress that's driving the overconsumption of food or the underactivity or whatever it is. And like what we're trying to do coaching wise is to also be able to address the why, like what exactly is going on there that we need to fix. Because if we don't fix that, then we're just going to continue to kind of repeat this cycle. So I do like this as a general rule, generally how my brain is working as I'm coaching, essentially.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's kind of a sense of, some people say, okay, I'm not motivated, things like that, right? But the big kind of idea of self-determination theory that you mentioned is just kind of that we all have this innate intrinsic motivation. Just, it's always there. It's whether we've got the kind of conditions in place to actually be able to go ahead and act upon that intrinsic motivation that is there. And that's where that hierarchy of needs come in. Are we keeping our stress under control? If we are, the chances are we're going to feel more motivated because we're in a better kind of internal environment to go ahead and act upon that motivation as well, right? And that's essentially the reason this works so much, because intrinsic motivation is kind of our highest quality motivation, right? There's other types such as extrinsic motivators, things like that, and it exists on a spectrum, but our intrinsic motivation, our drive to go ahead and do things and actually putting ourselves in a position to be able to fulfill that is what makes us as successful as possible. And that is essentially people saying, okay, I go to the gym because I enjoy going to the gym, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Cool. I've one more slide to work through before we dive into actual like practical application of trying to change behaviors. But I do think on the practical application side of things, it's things that we've all kind of heard before, but it can be nice to have a little bit of a reminder. Okay, so this is another bit of an insight into how my brain works when it comes to kind of behavior change. All right, so I'm gonna talk you through this. It might take a little minute there. Okay?
I'm gonna be here for a while, Strappy.
Yeah, you absolutely know it. Okay, so essentially we have your goal. We've worked it through the kind of goal analysis checkbooks to make sure that it's like you have flexibility in there. It's difficult enough. So we have this goal. We've broken it down into the individual behaviors. In order for us to engage in these behaviors, first of all, we need to have a competence, opportunity, forward motivation, autonomy, and relatedness. Okay. So one of the things that I really like about thinking about motivation is just it's just a drive towards engaging in behaviors. It's just something that pushes us forward. So sometimes we have move forward motivation or goal directed motivation, the type of motivation that allows us to do the difficult thing to get us to where we want to be. But then sometimes we have backwards motivation or a motivation for withdrawal or familiarity. And if we can, I think viewing motivation like that is actually helpful. So now you'd never have low motivation or no motivation. You just have motivation towards familiarity. Okay. And then from there, it gives us something to grapple with and be like, okay, what's actually going on here? Why am I feeling this lack of motivation? And then from here, essentially what we want to do is we want to look at, okay, what do I actually need to work on here? Do I need to introduce a source of positive emotion? Or do I need to do some sort of like cognitive technique? Okay. So introducing a source of positive emotion is essentially, what do I need to do to make me feel good? What's going to make me feel good and get me back into the headspace where I can have some more forward motivation? So my positive emotion drivers, for example, would be like reading or spending some time with Lucia or family, or taking some downtime, training, meditation, spending some time with friends. Like, what do I actually need to do during this funk, essentially, to get me feeling some degree of positive emotion? If nothing like this kind of resonates with me, then I will look over here at my psychological flexibility. So this is from, it's a a wave of cognitive behavioral therapy called acceptance and commitment therapy. So what I'll do is I'll then work through it and be like, okay, I'm having some thoughts that are reducing my motivation here. Do I need to, like, am I finding myself like too forward thinking and overwhelmed? Sometimes if we feel like we're far away from our goal, we're like, oh my God, I have so much work to do. I just feel disheartened about this entire process. So can I bring myself back to the present moment, even just doing a little bit of mindfulness? Can I remind myself of my values? So yes, I might be feeling low or backwards motivation, but I still have values and I still have goals that are important to me. So I'm going to essentially come down and take some committed action. I'm going to do the thing no matter how I'm feeling. And the next one that I like to use is a degree of like acceptance and diffusion. So acceptance wise is just like, okay, look, I'm feeling low today, or I'm feeling this drive towards withdrawal. That like feelings are going to come and go. They're going to kind of be like leaves on a stream. They're going to come and they're going to go and they're going to pass me by, and I don't need to act on them. I can just essentially like view them. And then another thing as well is like cognitive diffusion. So essentially, let's say, for example, you're having a really like persistent negative thought that's popping up. If you have a really persistent negative thought that's popping up, you want to be able to attach something to it that takes the sting out of the thought. So a nice, simple way of doing this is like, let's say, for example, you're feeling like you're feeling stressed over work. What you do is you attach something like, I notice I'm feeling stress over work. And little things like that can actually help you like take the sting out of the feelings that we're feeling and get us back towards, okay, I'm back in here again, and I can work towards, okay, right, what else do I need to make sure that I can actually engage in these behaviors? Sam, anything to add there?
No, I think you covered a lot of that really, really well. I think the thing to do after that is, if none of that kind of seems to cover how we're actually feeling in that sense, it may be a case of actually you need to revisit the goals that we discussed right at the start as well. And it could be that your values have started to shift a little bit. I think unlikely in most cases. Typically we're looking more towards that kind of opportunity, capability, something like that, if there's been a change in life for whatever reason. But sometimes it is a case of, okay, we actually need to revisit your goals.
Yeah.
Are these goals actually still motivating you to go ahead and change the behaviors that you need to change in order to achieve them, right?
One thing that I need to add to my diagram is around environment.
Yes. So environment is essentially that kind of opportunity side of things, right? In the sense of, this could be kind of your physical environment, I suppose. This could be your social environment. It could be a host of things. It could be your social media environment as well, right? Do these things actually make it easier to engage in the behaviors you want to engage in, or do they make it harder? Are we essentially setting ourselves up for success there, right? So an example that I'll always give here is, if we're, Sajal mentioned having a sweet tooth, right? If we have highly calorie dense kind of sweet treats lying around the house that are very, very central, maybe in the kitchen, it's going to be hard to go ahead and avoid those, right? Whereas if they're put at the back of the pantry behind a few better options that kind of make you second guess that, and you force that additional awareness upon yourself, making that choice becomes a lot easier for you in that sense. And that's just how you can kind of adapt your physical environment, right? David, anything that you would touch on kind of like social environment or anything like that?
Yeah, I was just about to say, I think that heavily relates to one thing that we like to say about implementation intentions, right? Especially when it comes to, okay, what is around you? What have you got, especially like maybe in your kitchen, and deciding obviously what you should do before it's even happening. So let's say your environment, in your kitchen, you got a lot of sweets there, but you need to meal prep as well. At least having that implementation saying, okay, before I even meal prep, before I even think about snacking, let me have maybe a piece of fruit. Let me have maybe a diet soda, for an example, as well, to make sure that you can stick to something before obviously affecting that environment on that side of things.
Yeah, so essentially we're talking about kind of game planning in that sense, right? if X happens, then I will do X or Y or whatever, right? Such as kind of if it's a stressful day at work, then I will take a walk afterwards before I go to the kitchen or something like that, right? Just having that little bit of a game plan. And you can take that a step further as well by kind of having that little bit of a coping plan following on from that as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like I said, environment can mean a lot of things, especially like you just talked about walking. If it's raining, then maybe, you know what, I'll do a walk at the mall. I'll do a walk on a treadmill, for example. Just having that coping plan with whatever your environment is important.
Yeah. I think the if then statements are super helpful. Actually, like evidence-based interventions as well, increases the likelihood of us doing the thing if we have these intentions in place. So like again, another example there would be around training. I will train Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If I get held late in work, then I will go for a walk instead and catch up with my training on the weekend. Having like a really structured plan like that, it sets the scene for success and failure, which can be helpful as well. It's like it sets some like strong goals for you to be striving towards. So yeah, implementation intentions, they're definitely helpful. Even like around cravings. If a craving pops up, then I'll have a Diet 7 Up. I'm dieting at the moment, so I do actually have cravings. So I am having a Diet 7 Up.
Pepsi Max is my go-to.
The next thing is around habit stacking. So an example for me, like the thing I will struggle with, funny enough, is my steps. And the reason being is I'm not somebody who's like, oh, I'm gonna love to take a walk in the evening. I like it's not something that like really appeals to me the way it might appeal to some other people, but I still have like step targets to hit. So like what I will do is I'll always pair it with something that I actually want to do. So there'll always be like a podcast that I want to catch up on, or there'll always be something on Netflix I want to catch up on. And what I can do is pair a behavior that I don't necessarily want to do with a behavior that I want to do. And then all of a sudden that increases my engagement. So if you can kind of habit stack things together like that can be really helpful for pairing, just to increase your adherence there. And then all of a sudden the walk for me becomes an enjoyable thing because I get to, one, keep my habits in line with my goals, and two, I get to catch up on some stupid TV of some sort.
Yeah, I think the other way of looking at habit stacking as well isn't necessarily just
like that
things you want to do with things that you don't want to do, but also things you want to do with things you're already doing as well, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone probably has a morning coffee. This is always my go-to. Everyone probably has a morning coffee. Take your creatine at the same time, that kind of thing. It can be, I think, especially useful in those things that can be easily forgotten to attach it to something that you're already doing as well. And that's a lot of the time when I'll kind of add those things in as well. But yeah, to be fair, I quite like the podcast and the walk side of things.
Yeah, that's actually not technically what habit stacking is, but that's what came to my mind.
Yeah.
Cool.
The other thing that I was going to go ahead and say we should touch on is also mental contrasting. So sometimes I think it can be difficult to kind of break down the barriers that you are actually facing, and also sometimes to know what actions to take to get to where you want to go as well. And that's kind of where that comes into play, right? So you're essentially visualizing your desired kind of future versus kind of your current existence in that sense, and looking at that and saying, right, what's different, right? What are the behaviors I need to engage in to get to that desired future? And also, what are the barriers to those behaviors with my kind of current situation as well, right? And that way, it makes it very, very easy to then identify the things that need to change, because I think that's the kind of first step in terms of actually troubleshooting different things, right? If motivation drops, things like that, what do we actually need to take? What actions do we need to do? All of that side of things.
Yeah, it's like, I'm sure we've all done this kind of like planning out what our dream life would look like. I get up and I do X, and then I do Y, and then I do Z. And then you look at your list and be like, there's like 5 of them there that I could do today.
Yeah.
There's that, I like, so let's go and do them things and not wait for this hypothetical imaginary time where the stars are going to align and I'm going to be able to do all of these things perfectly. It's more so like, okay, let's begin to incorporate them in now and today. And I think we've to find the balance between giving ourselves like empathy and in the fact that behavior change is tough. It's tough. Like essentially what you're trying to do is you've like innate ways of doing things. They're like the easy path to take. And you're trying to go a road that's less traveled essentially. So it's a difficult thing to do. So there's going to be slip ups along the way, but we also need to balance just like being a little bit blunt with it and be like, if I want to get myself into that position, I have to do X, Y, and Z. And it's just like simple and straightforward. And I think finding that balance, like you can't just always be blunt with yourself. It's not super helpful. Same coaching wise as well. We can't always be blunt, but there has to be a degree of it in there as well. I'd love to know, like, Sam, is this something that you think about yourself?
Yeah. I was actually gonna shoot over to you. My mind was on something else. As you were kind of talking there. So I was kind of thinking more down the route of, we've spoke a lot on how to go ahead and start implementing new behaviors, start implementing things that we want to action. But at the same time, with behavior change, there's always kind of actions that we're already taking, which maybe don't serve our goals as well. So like when we contrast things, some of those barriers might be, okay, I want to lose X amount of pounds, but currently I'm snacking whilst watching the TV at night or something like that, right? Which maybe isn't always a bad thing, but maybe doesn't necessarily serve that immediate goal. So I've heard you speaking about kind of cue, routine, reward, that side of things before. How do you see that being kind of a valuable way of looking at things to break behavior loops that maybe don't serve our current goals?
Yeah. So essentially we have these like habit loops that God knows when we developed. Maybe they served us back then and they don't necessarily serve us right now. Like we could be still engaging in coping mechanisms for something that happened a decade ago, and we're still running with them now, and we're much better equipped and in a better life situation right now, and we're still resorting back to them innate behaviors. I think the first thing to do is just catch yourself and be like, okay, I actually noticed my cue, routine, reward. So maybe it's something like, okay, the cue is I've had a stressful day. The routine that I do when I do that is I withdraw from people. And then the reward is I don't need to speak about the stressful day. The reward is like, okay, I get to have a little bit of like peace and quiet or something like that. If we were to take it like a nutrition example, it would be like my cue would be I get home from work. My routine is I'm going to snack before I even think about dinner. And then the reward is just the deliciousness of the snack. So essentially what we need to do is, one, we become aware of it. 2, we need to now begin to put a new kind of cue, routine, and reward in place. So like a nice way of thinking about this is, imagine you had your meals prepped and organized already. So your new routine was, okay, I come home from work, I stick my food in the microwave, and then my food is ready for me essentially. So I've added in a new kind of routine there to be working towards. And again, we're not going to implement it perfectly, but if we can try catch our kind of the behaviors that we repeat on a regular basis and begin to trial different stuff that we can add in. Yeah, that's essentially my thoughts on that there.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, David.
Yeah, like you're just saying about it's not gonna be perfect. I think a lot of people forget that how long that habit took to build up, and to get rid of it, it doesn't just mean it's gonna go within a day as well, right? It also takes a little bit of time to build that good habit up to be able to take those bad habits away. So just talking about the importance of you wanting to be perfect, think about how long it took you to build up those unhealthy habits. It is going to take that little bit of time to take it away, but that's the main thing. It's not going to be perfect.
Yeah, I think also just knowing that the vast majority of behaviors that we engage in are, as Dee said previously, kind of maybe coping mechanisms, things like that. They're essentially learned behaviors in a response to a certain stimulus, right? That we've picked up over time. So it's not necessarily something that's innate to you. They are all things that can be changed in that sense. I think that kind of adds quite a lot of optimism behind things when maybe we are struggling to stop engaging in a certain behavior or something like that as well.
Yeah, I think like you can just add a degree of like diversity to your personality by changing things. So for example, like maybe it is the case that I'm using a non-fitness example here. Maybe it is the case that you're somebody who's quite introverted, right? And that doesn't mean that you can't train yourself to be a little bit more extroverted. Maybe innately you'll lean towards that direction. Like that will be, you'll always lean more further in that direction, but you can train yourself to be more extroverted. And then all of a sudden you've got kind of more skills at your disposal, essentially. Again, not related to what you said, but it was on my mind.
No, I think we've covered quite a lot. Dee, I would love for you to, if you were to kind of summarize the key points from goal setting, motivation, the Combi model, and then maybe some of your favorite practical tips, and me and David will jump in as well.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is like less talk, less planning, more doing. Like we can set all these perfect goals and things like that, and then all of a sudden they're like 3 weeks into January, we're beginning to forget about them. I think it's like set that higher standard for yourself, tell people about the higher standard you've set for yourself, tell your coach, allow yourself to be imperfect as you work towards that higher standard, but don't forget about it and don't bin it off. And there can be more mixed emotions that come up with that because you can fail on a regular basis, but on average, like behavior wise, your behaviors will be improving if you keep the reminder of what it is that you're working towards in the first place.
Yeah. I think also just taking care of yourself outside of the actions that kind of work towards your goal as well, and understanding that they do actually have an impact there as well. We discussed kind of relatedness. That's one of the things I will touch on from kind of a social aspect, right? Let's say, for example, we maybe start viewing socials as a barrier to engaging in nutritional behaviors that help us move forwards, right? That may be the case, but at the same time, you gain a lot of relatedness potentially from that, right? Which then helps you outside of that to continue moving forward. That would be kind of the key thing that I would place that additional focus on. David, in terms of practical tips or anything that immediately comes to mind for you?
Yeah, practical tips. I know obviously Dee talked about just doing it, right? Having that little bit of a backup of in terms of a plan going into it in terms of your why as well is also going to be very important. Like go back to what your why is. In terms of the whole thing. I always say whoever I'm getting as a client, like when I'm looking at the application and I'm looking at the why, it's so important because you can go back to it, whether it's in a week's time or 5 months' time, and remind yourself of why you started the transformation in the first place, right? And sometimes you need that reminder. You're getting through, you're 2 months in, 5 months in, and then you just need that, maybe that pick me up. Go back to the reminder, especially on True Coach. You got your goals there, you got your why there. It's good to read over if it's going to be maybe, I don't know, once a week or once a month, just for yourself as well. Obviously, you'll have your coach, you'll have everyone around you, but for yourself in your own time, have a look at what your why is, and then it picks you up. It reminds you of why you started. So I think if I'd say one thing that was important, have your why, go back to it, and then remember that's the plan that you came in with. So stick to it and go through with it.
Yeah. I think if anyone wanted one action to take away from the call as well, it would be kind of a case of, is the easiest thing to go ahead and action straight away. Isn't necessarily kind of looking at your goals, all of that side of things, but just is your environment set up for success? Are you in a social environment? Are you in a physical environment? Is your home environment set up for you to engage in the behaviors that you know are positively impacting your goals? If not, start moving things around there. I guarantee the actions and kind of just doing it and more doing becomes a lot easier for you as well.
Yeah. And address what's coming up in terms of the backwards motivation, what's driving the withdrawal towards familiarity. If you can kind of pinpoint what's going on there and then address them, that's going to have a lot more longevity than waiting for this temporary pickup in motivation because your coach sent you a check-in or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome, guys. That's us for today. Cheers.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone coming through.
Yeah,
And,
don't be afraid. If you do have any more questions about anything at all, don't be afraid to drop it in the chat or stay on. We'll be happy to answer any questions.
100%.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.